Hello everyone and welcome on back to the channel. We're going to start this video with going over some of the baseline mechanics for Old Lion's Court where you fight the Watch Knight Triumvirate. Gotta say, this is an amazing fight, but the review will be after I kill this boss. So let's start with some of the fundamentals. I'm not going to bog you down with too many things, just more so some generalities to give yourself a little bit of a baseline if you would like. So first up, the most important feature of this is the break bar / defiance bar being changed. It's not just a mechanic to stun the target. It in fact doesn't stun the target immediately. It instead swaps the positioning of the safe zone and deadly zones of the attack. So if there is the first one that you're fighting, it creates a deadly zone in a larger circle around it with a smaller circle underneath it as a safe area. If you break it, those zones will swap. So now if you're underneath the boss, you'll die. If you break the bar, the boss will be exposed after it ends the attack, so it's still worthwhile breaking it within the first phase. Throughout the fight, it's more subject to what your group is trying to do and what they think would best serve them. All knights are proximity tanked, and honestly, I'm not a huge fan of this. Nevertheless, let's go over the actual knights themselves. The red knight likes to hit with melee strikes, and every third attack or so will drop a growing damage field if it successfully hits any player. And there is a brief warning, and I mean briefest of briefs. It's like watching a TikTok. Next up will be the green, who has a pull attack that sucks everyone towards them. Think Anka from the Jade Junkyard Strike mission. They also have a projectile attack that follows one person. Wherever this strikes and lands, a growing damage pool will spawn. Finally, we have the blue, or the indigo one. I'm going based off the colors, not their actual names. It's like vermilion, something else, indigo. But let's talk about the blue one. This one will do more damage to foes further away from it, and will use a skill to blow back your squad while striking with lightning. So be sure to run as close as you possibly can to avoid taking extra damage, as while you're being blown back, it appears that the increased damage does take effect. Players will also be afflicted with a blue field around them, which will explode. Sometimes players seem to be tethered to each other and might have to break it, and I know from personal experience that I'm sometimes tethered to an anchor. This anchor, after a certain duration, or if you run away far enough, it's one of the two, I'm still kind of feeling it out, it will teleport you back to that anchor. So just be aware of that and where you get anchored, just in case later in the fight, if it happens to be in a damage zone, I would say your farewells early. There will also be 3 phases in the fight where you must break one of the 3 knights. The order goes in the first occurrence, green, in the second, red, and the third, blue. So break green, very first time around, break red the second time around, and break blue the third time around. You then have to go and stand in the white area that is safe and not overlapped with any of the red from the other 2 knights who are performing their large area attacks. Later in the fight, you have to then face off against them all at once, and it's a living hell. But have fun and let's watch me kill it. Pattern with one of the mechanics, but there's a lot of decision making in like where the mobs are positioned, and you can choose to break it or not break it to change the pattern if you want to, depending on your situation. It's a lot. It's a lot. And we got down to the very last part, and at the very last part, 2 of them spawn at the same time. So it is still that same mechanic of you're fighting one-on-one, but at a certain point it gets to 2, and I think for challenge mode it'll end up being 3. But then when there are 2, they link up and they gain benefits, so you have to keep them apart. And it's like, ooh, it gets it's a bit much. Ooh, okay, pool in the center. Break. I'd say try not to put the pools in the center as best as possible.
Yeah, I don't think you can.
For that green one, you can run out of it to like reposition it. It's a projectile that starts spinning, and if you're already outside of it, it goes a bit slow, actually. They are so good. These are so fantastic. And fighting the Watch Knights in the Battle for Lion's Arch is a nice precursor to some of their like larger area attacks, and how when you break them, it doesn't immediately stun them. It will just change the positioning of their attack. What was that?
I was just saying we're getting cleaner.
Oh yeah. I mean, we got pretty far last pull. Having 2.
Yeah, people need to go.
Don't you see? In or out, in or out. Ooh, gotta go out. And also this mechanic is personalized, so it's not consistent. Some people get in, some people get out. And we discovered that and we were like, oh, because we kept making call outs, but people were like going to different places. And I was like, someone's making the wrong call out, but no, it's client based. Don't see. Oh, we should CC?
So we can take advantage
Okay, yeah.
of the exposed.
Run away.
And this is easier as well.
That's how it is.
Okay. And there are moments in the fight where everyone is taking a lot of consistent pulsing damage and you really need to heal them up. Like this phase, when it gets the suck. The suck and the lightning. Or, ooh, someone's like all the way over there. If you're targeted with the green beam, that means the projectile is coming towards you, and that projectile will create the pool. So if you have time, you can like run to the edge.
You should not be getting hit by the...
See? This is where things get very hectic. It's gonna heal. Careful area. How does the blue one spawn the... I'm still trying to figure that one out. How does the blue one spawn these pools? Run at?
Okay, so if you got tethered by the teleport thing, you need to break it and get teleport back, otherwise you will spawn a
Red first. Red. And then go over to blue. Safe zone. Safe zone. We're getting to this one more consistently now, which is good.
So we talked about the teleport tether from blue.
Yes. Someone want to go tank the other one?
You need to break it, otherwise they will spawn a failure on the ground.
Yeah. Ooh, Necro has
Get
the
out.
tank. Split them,
Get
split
out.
them, split them. Should we CC? CC. Don't stand in the safe zone. Stand in orange because it's gonna flip.
She needs to get away.
Yeah, green. Green's gotta go.
It's still posing damage on us.
Mm-mm. Okay.
This is a suck.
Careful to suck. Suck.
To the tank. Oh, where's the tank? You try to get
Okay, I'm green.
blue need to go away. Oh, actually, green. The green needs to be at the edge.
We're going to be at the edge of the arena.
Yeah.
Cool.
One of you should have tether. Yep. You need to break it. Directly match. You should have the
Ooh, dodge.
You have the clock on your head, and you need to break it.
We're gonna go to red. Don't CC. Don't CC. Don't CC. Taking him back out.
Okay, it's phasing.
Run at. Run at. Y'all, we're kind of doing this. We're kind of doing this.
Red needs to
Someone
go.
has red. Red, go out. Don't break. Don't break.
Made a DPS blue to 10%, and then we should fight all three of them at the same time.
It's gonna be all three.
This is the case.
So we're probably gonna have to break blue, right?
Yeah, blue.
Yeah, break blue. And then go over to red.
Half
Yeah.
side.
So it
Half
goes
side, half side.
red first, second phase green, third phase blue.
No, the second phase was red as well. It's green, red, blue.
Oh yeah, sorry. Green, yeah, green, red, blue.
We still separate them. I think all three of them. Yep, don't stand in that. You're gonna die.
Y'all, this is
Cube.
this is a
Two
lot.
red first.
This is
and
a
then the
lot.
other two,
Ooh, gosh.
stand away from each other. Blue get away from green and from the group.
Oh, I'm gonna move. I'm gonna move out.
Instead, and then green should be next.
Go to green.
And blue stay away. So suck.
Green, green, green. Wrong one. Run away, run away. On green, on green. Ooh, teleport. What the hell was that? Find one blue. Y'all, I think we got this. Run forward. No! Stay alive, you're not gonna die yet. Bitch! Oh my
Oh.
god.
That was so
Oh,
sexy.
good job, everyone! That was delicious. That was tasty. I hope you enjoyed that. I know I sure did. I think I did it about 6 or 7 times before I actually, we actually got the clear. But it was such an intriguing and awesome experience going through and figuring out all of the intricacies and all of the mechanics, knowing when they pop up, knowing how to deal with it, knowing who to break and in what order. And I gotta say, this strike mission blew me away, blew my expectations away, because it was and is a free-to-play strike mission where there is the reality that free-to-play players are able to experience this. I think I was under the notion that this was going to be super easy, very approachable, and not much of a challenge. Boy, was I wrong, and I think many of us were wrong. Raise your hand if you were also wrong. Yeah, it's okay. You can raise your hand a little bit. It's fine. But I am so happy that they went in this direction instead of perhaps giving us something like Icebrood Saga, where Icebrood Saga is extremely approachable. However, it doesn't really prepare you in the way that it needs to if you're going to be engaging in endgame content. And now that strike missions are no longer framed as a stepping stool into the raiding scene, well, it certainly can serve as that, it feels like strike missions are now the replacement for raids, where we're getting raid level difficulty and intrigue and interest with all of the mechanical complexities, while also being very approachable. So I think in this scenario, it's almost a perfect balance of highlighting key components, and particularly with Old Lion's Court, I'm so happy that they have decided to focus in on break bars and showing players that break bars are an extremely important part of the game, and they've decided to even flip it on its head. Usually, if you break a break bar, the enemy is just stunned, but now there's another layer of thought that goes into it. Are we going to flip the attack? Are we going to not break it? It's very much a presentation of to break or not to break. And I think having that framed as the scenario is even more impactful than just throwing a bunch of Defiance bars at new players and saying, well, just take crowd control effects. Now you have to be acutely aware of this mechanic. And of course, on top of this, the break bar mechanic, there's also a lot of attention put on positioning and area effects. I will admit that despite this being a strike mission and perhaps free, it is a little chaotic towards the end and applies a lot of pressure to players to know positioning, to know where to group, to know where your healers are, and also by extension for your healers to try to devise a plan to heal as many players as possible, because people can get spread out really easily. But once again, I think this is important to teach, and at some point it has to be taught. So why not in a free-to-play strike mission? And of course, once you get the mechanics nailed down, then you're able to focus more on your rotation and the positioning, and the mechanical wall and obstacle won't be as intimidating perhaps. So then you'll be able to flexibly grow and progress in the fight. Hell, even me, myself as a veteran, I had to pull this around 6 or 7 times, and after I would say the 3rd time, it became really clear what all the mechanics were doing and how to approach it with each boss. Because you fight one boss after the other, and then eventually at the very finale, you fight them all together. So I really enjoy that and I really appreciate it. I think overall this strike mission does a phenomenal job. The one thing I will say is it seems that they are so afraid of entertaining a more dedicated tank role or a tanking mechanic such as toughness tanking in raids. Now, I actually really enjoy toughness tanking. I think it's a very reliable method of assigning a person or a person taking it upon themselves to play that tank role and to move the bosses to the location. Perhaps they know or they want to learn where to position the bosses. But with these knights, it's all proximity based once they land. So if you're perhaps pugging and no one calls it, it's perhaps randomized if someone is going to be the tank, because they might not be aware that they're the closest, as most of Guild Wars 2's gameplay is structured around stacking together and stacking on the boss. So if someone does get the tanking mechanic and they don't know where to go, or they continually just stand there and they keep spawning all of the damaging fields in one location, it's going to punish everyone. And I like certain mechanics where everyone has to pay attention, but when it's such an integral mechanic of positioning and, as we've seen in other MMOs, tanking, I still don't know why they couldn't have just done something a bit more consistent. Even, hell, someone picking up a special action item to tag them as the tank, as we've seen in Wing 5 of one of the raids. But I think toughness tanking and the toughness stat has really fallen out of favor and has little to no use in PvE anymore. So I would love to maybe see them entertain that idea. And of course, because there were 3 knights, not every single knight had to function with the same tanking mechanic, but they did. So that's my one point of critique. And I know there are plenty of players who enjoy playing the tank, and you are still able to do so, but you have to call it out and trust that no one else is going to stand on top of the tank or in front of you in any way. And if you are not chosen as the tank, there's nothing you can do about it for that duration. Nevertheless, this is extremely well designed, well rounded, and overall I'd give it a 9.5 out of 10. That 0.5 being dark just simply because, like, my own personal reaction of tanking mechanics when it's in such a chaotic situation. But nevertheless, definitely try it out. If you are new to Guild Wars 2, I would say watch a couple more videos, even a stream, and go into a training run. Don't feel afraid to even pop one up on the LFG. I did it. I just said, okay, let's go. I had no idea what I was doing. I said, training. Oh, everyone new, go, let's go. And it was really enjoyable. And I think having voice communications via Discord is a really great help. So if you're comfortable with that, I would highly recommend doing so. But thank you all so much for coming on by. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and also the strike mission. I would love to hear your thoughts down below when it comes to Old Lion's Court. I am also really impressed with the reward structure. And if you'd like to support the channel, head on over to the Patreon. Get early access to all my videos, and if you'd like to catch me over on Twitch, I'm streaming there almost every day of the week, and I shall see you all in the next video. Bye everyone! Mwah.